So this is,
Freda, can you just ask Mike if he
can you hear us, Mike?
Yes.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Thank
Yeah.
goodness you're here because we need you.
All right.
Okay. What time is it there?
7 p.m.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
Now,
So it's Wednesday, March 27th, and I am calling the meeting of the Erie Environmental Advisory Council to order. And Michael, you're here?
yes.
Robert Howden has called in sick. Aaron is here. Does anybody have another pen? Oh, wait, this works, this pencil works. Okay, Pat is here. Dr. Mason, Sam has said she wasn't going to be able to come. Matt Puzz is sick, and I'm here. So we do have a quorum. Okay, so is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Well, I'm seeing, it says public comment first.
Approval.
Oh, wrong one, okay. All right, so we'll call for approval of the February 2024 agenda, meeting minutes. Anybody have any?
Motion.
Okay.
Second?
Second? Okay, all in favor of the minutes of February 2024? Anybody not, do you approve, Michael? John? Mike?
I approve.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so any additions to the agenda? Okay. And can we introduce you as a visitor? Okay, and your name again, sir, was? James?
David?
David? David Ulick. He's on the board of the Port of Erie. And then, of course, we have the legal representative for the city? Oh, Jason? Check? Check, Jason Check from the solicitor's office.
And
Oh, and Sarah Peelman, she's
the
Sustainability Coordinator, and of course, our staff person, Jacqueline Spry. Okay, so do we have any public comment? Nope, still no public. All right, so report of officers and visitors. I don't have any reports. Anybody?
what does that even mean?
I don't know what it means. I didn't get
Jackie?
this agenda.
Yeah, I'm looking to see why that's on there, because, one moment, in the bylaws, I must have been following something in there, was it procedural? Yeah, so, I'll come up to the mic. On page 6 of the bylaws, Article 10, Order of Business, that was in there from last time, so I must have just followed suit.
Yeah.
But if you want to take that out for.
Well, I guess,
when we-
as we get further down the line.
There'll be
they-
more.
They may be,
Yeah.
so I
Right.
think you can leave
I
it
think
in.
that
Right.
was the rationale.
It's something, actually, what county council does is they just say what they've put on the agenda, the different committee people, but we don't have any committees yet. Okay, I can just say that we have received a draft copy of the bylaw, and we've been talking about it, and that's why it's on the agenda. So, the first item of business is the draft bylaws.
The draft bylaws are in your packet,
Right,
and the page that you just sent me, the amendments that you just sent me are the last page of the packet.
okay.
Because I didn't have time to send it out to everybody, and I didn't think that they would have time to read it. So we can have a discussion about the bylaws. I also have here all of the emails that were sent back and forth, if you would like to see those. that
Yeah,
would be
I have a copy of those.
helpful.
Okay,
correct.
so Mike, are you
Thank
able did you share with him?
He has, yes, he has everything. I think
He has this?
I have the bylaws.
You have
He
the,
doesn't have that new one.
Okay,
I'll send
can-
it to him right now.
or you could share the
Yeah,
whatever.
This morning, as I was kind of getting ready for the meeting, I kept thinking about our associate members. And so I just jotted some things down, and it's certainly just a draft, but people wanted to know like more about them and what they would be. And so, Michael, since you don't have it,
I'll send it to him right now.
it's being sent to you, but it's just Article 5, Associate Non-Voting Members. Number 1, to encourage community interest and provide broader input, the EAC shall select up to 7 associate members. A, up to 2. And that's got, my numbers got mixed up too. That should be, A is up to 2 City of Erie high school students. B is up to 2 college students from the local colleges or universities,
And that would include the community college?
any college,
Okay.
local. And C, instead of number 2, that first line should be C, up to 3 environmental experts who may or may not be a City of Erie resident. And then after resident, that's where number 2 starts. I don't know, somehow my computer always jumps around for me. So number 2 is associate members may be recommended by EAC members or apply directly to the EAC via the website or in person during public comment during any EAC meeting. And then number 3, interested applicants for associate members will submit a letter to the EAC describing their background, reasons for becoming a member, and their agreement to at least a 1-year commitment to attend meetings. I didn't know if that addressed some of the questions that people had as to why are we having these associate members? And Michael, you might recognize that first sentence. That was something that you had said in one of your emails. So, so I don't know how people feel about that, but that is, that's a little more flushed out than the last thing that I sent.
So I had a question. Say I was what is the I don't have to pay any attention to that, do I, Jackie? It says, what it says on the screen? Okay. Say I'm a city resident. Unlike my actual background, I don't have an official academic background in the environmental area, but I'm pretty knowledgeable, pretty concerned. Does that mean I can call myself an expert?
Well, I think you can tell, you said you can, you can make that point in your letter.
You would
That though you
apply.
do not have any specific credentials from a university, you have a lot of experience. And so there you consider yourself an environmental expert,
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, that, all
And it's
right.
going to be, the council that's saying yay or nay to these,
Right,
As a group.
as a group.
right. No, and this doesn't define, but what we're assuming is one of the reasons to have them is so that they can be on committees and stuff.
Well, people that aren't associate members can be on committees too. I think the main point when we talked about having associate members was having another additional group, and specifically young people and experts in the community, who would meet regularly with the Environmental Council to kind of broaden our perspective.
Right.
So would they almost be like a youth committee in a way?
Well, you can't say that because then the
Oh,
experts
because
are
they
on it
have
too.
to be members.
But,
Yeah.
but a big portion of it was, to bring in some of the younger people in the community that might be interested.
Well, hopefully some of them you'll recruit, but,
Right, if you look at it from
Or Aaron
context
from
of,
his group?
yeah, of sort of replacing ourselves. I mean, because this group needs to be able to understand the talent that's out there. I mean, it just makes perfect sense that this would be a way to broaden and to invite and to gather more wisdom than we have with 7 people.
Because I think, we can see people aren't going to be flocking to these meetings to see, what's happening, but if we can kind of double our size through these associate members, then we have a little bigger group of people that are both learning about the issues and that are giving us input into the issues.
There may be people watching us online, but I'm not sure. Sometimes it says how many are watching. 5 people are watching online.
Good, welcome.
On Facebook, I don't know if we're on YouTube as well. So the only question I had was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, once a month, is it, so how reasonable an expectation is it that at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, once a month, these, up to 7? Okay, so we're not having 7, we could have 7. But that these people could show up once,
Well, see, that's what they'll have to determine. I mean, if this is something they want to do, like if they're high school students, they could be excused from school if they're not out by 3 o'clock, because that would be something that would look good on their academic record. College students, it would have to revolve around their schedule.
Okay, so, I see we have a legal person in the audience. Have you seen this document?
I just saw those sisters.
How do you feel about it?
My only concern is high school age.
Is what?
High school age.
The high school age.
High school age, like this is the high school student. My only concern is them leaving school. I think them leaving school, I think that probably that would be up to the school district, but more, you guys have like a code of ethics. You signed documents about certain things. Technically, you're not really allowed to get into any sort of like contract legally binding until you're 18. So if you want them to sign a code of ethics, I mean, I think
Well, they're
technically.
non-voting members.
Yeah, they're
I know, but they're going to be getting information. They're going to be deliberating. They're going to be giving ideas or opinions. Also, like, if a high school student's 14, it's very different than a high school student who's 17 or 18. I have an issue with maturity. I mean, I don't want there to be any, because they're coming to public meetings, they might be on committees, which are in private, not public forums. I just don't want to have the city being liable for kids.
There are some 14-year-olds who are a hell of a lot more mature than some 18-year-olds.
I 1,000% agree with you. However, are you going to get those on here? And also, just for liability purposes, I would probably ask your membership be 18 or older instead of having high school,
Well, what if we?
just to be on the safe side.
You know, I
It meets the
think-
purpose.
That way, there's no clearances that are needed by,
There's clearances.
I'm just, this is
Yeah,
the
no,
stuff
no,
that's out
you're
there.
right. So, but well, it would be the Erie City School District. And
Primarily, I would
you know,
expect
Well,
it to
and
be.
the private schools.
And the private schools, which I would assume all have either leadership clubs or environmental clubs. So as of coming to a 3 o'clock meeting, that's part of their academic development.
Yeah, I
And,
don't
you
think
know,
that would really be an issue.
But the question of younger is a valid point.
16?
I don't even know what a senior in high school is. 18?
17.
17 or 18.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
it just depends on when their birthday falls. Like, I have an April birthday, so I turned 18 in April of my senior year. You know, so then, from my point of view, then I would have been a good candidate maybe when in April and May and June, when the school year wrapped up and then, roll into. So when you're asking like associate members also have a 1-year commitment, that's sort of a contract. I don't know if you want them to sign something or if it's
No,
just. But,
It would just be
You know,
verbal.
the idea
Yeah.
is to help them to understand that this is not something they can just say they're going to do and not do.
and then do you need parents to sign off as well because of the under age of 18?
well,
I'm
if
just,
they're-
there's a
yeah.
lot, there's a
Right.
lot
Can't
going
get
on.
into all this legalese liability
Well,
stuff.
well,
'cause
Pat, you
if I
should-
did that, I wouldn't have any groups at all that I would be working
Right,
with.
how do you interact with the kids you're working with?
I just do it,
And they show up,
yes.
and you don't have clearances and all
I
that?
don't have clearances, I don't have liability, I don't sign agreements. You know, they're 14 to 18, maybe a little older, but.
So isn't there a way that a political science class would come to city council? And, I mean, I'm just thinking that this is a city of Erie question of advising around environmental concerns. And the city of Erie, any teacher in the city of Erie, I would think, has a desire for their students to have experiences and formative experiences and involvement. And if I was a teacher, teacher of senior high youth, I would be like, wow, I've got this great opportunity and you're just the person and here's this. So, I mean, if we don't sign a
Well, then let-
contract, but
and
we
then- And then
connect
that
with-
teacher can talk to the parent and get them to sign off that they're allowed to miss school, first off, come downtown for whatever period of time, and then we're documented because they are associate members, and when the parent signs off and the school signs off, and they're in a public forum,
You could have the parents sign on the letter that the student is submitting.
just, I mean, I understand what your
So is it
organization does.
possible then if they develop a form for the students to sign?
If they develop a form, I'll look at it, and I'll tell you then.
So, I mean, I have had to have clearances for all kinds of things, because working Meals on Wheels.
Yeah, anybody that works with children one-on-one
Well,
has to
even
have clearances.
vulnerable adults, or Meals on Wheels, just all kinds of things I've had to have clearances. And
Yeah.
it's, well, but there's like clearances upon clearances. There's different, so,
And then
what
coming-
about, wait a minute, what about the police athletic league? What do they have?
I don't know.
Well,
They're a nonprofit organization. They're a 501c3 is my understanding.
Yeah.
So they have their own total setup.
but
The
I
city-
understand
the city's not.
our police get overtime when they work with them.
The city, but that's a whole separate organization though.
But if our police are getting paid overtime, then they are somehow, anyway.
I don't,
Can I ask you a quick
I don't know any
question?
information on
I
that though.
think this is a little outside of the scope at this moment of the bylaws, what we're talking about.
I should have asked
If
him.
you're trying to attract citywide students, let's say, that are in high school, not college, but this is high school that we're talking about, and you want to make relationships and have them involved in the EAC, that's like a whole nother animal at this point. You know, that's something where you would have to pitch
Yeah,
to.
but I don't
You would have
think-
to pitch to the school.
I don't think we're going to put some all-call out for high school students. Aaron is going to say, I have this kid. He can do it. I'm going to say, I have this kid. Or maybe they'll hear about it somehow, and they'll say, I would like to do this. But we're not going to make a big deal about advertising through all of the schools.
Well, I was thinking that if you were to get a teacher on board who's a political science or sustainability, whatever it may be, and somebody knew, Aaron, you knew somebody in the school district, and you made a contact and said, look, we'd like to have your class this year be involved in this specific project, whatever. That I could see as, that's a committed group of students right there. That to me is actually would work well, except that you'd have to pitch that idea to a teacher and make a contact and get the signatures or whatever you have to do. But I think that you could do that, it just would take a little bit of extra work. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about. only here.
If we never leave this room with them, do we actually need clearances to never leave the room
Now,
with them?
who are you saying needs the clearances? Individual council members do not need clearances because you're not going to be with a student by themselves. The only time you need clearances is if you're going to be with a student by yourself, like at the art house. Everyone that comes in does not have to have a clearance if they're working with the students in the general area where there are staff present.
Okay, just a simple example. You guys are doing some sort of presentation, the students have helped you prepare the presentation, or something's down in your car, and you're like, hey, can someone go help me get something out of my car? The student goes with you, you are now alone with the student, there's no one around, you come back, get stuff, doesn't seem to be any problem. 6 months later, there's an allegation of something, okay? I don't know what.
So we don't do that.
just, you have to be vigilant though, and say, if the student's like, I really want to help and do that, just like, no, you stay here. I will have some other adult. It's just like, is it going to happen? Probably not. However, the city would like to remain protected. This is a city organization, and city-sponsored. So I just would like people just to be careful, and those are just my first thoughts. You guys can approve, obviously, whatever amendments to the bylaws you want to do, but at the same time, I'm just,
Okay, so if we want to approve this, and then it'll go to city council in,
No, they don't, our bylaws don't go to city council. No,
okay.
actually, we shouldn't even be talking, we said we were going to do this by email, but I cannot do stuff by
I don't think we
email.
should be doing council business by email.
And I know we don't have everybody here to talk about this today, and I know we tabled it the last meeting, but
my other suggestion, just more of a practical business thing, is you're talking about like an associate member. It might be something you want to just table for now, and then in a month or two, when you guys decide what issues you want to really tackle for the rest of the year, then that actually you could spread your message about. You might know a student or a resident or an expert that actually really focuses on one of those issues, and then you might be like, okay, now's the time to talk about associate members. We have some ideas of people who can really focus
Yeah.
on.
I just don't see what the big hassle is about
That's
associate
exactly what
members.
Matt Cuz had suggested, is like pass the bylaws, if there's any other edits, try to pass the bylaws, and then table that one specific section and revisit that when the time is appropriate.
And then just
Because
create
it
like an
will hold
associate
us up.
committee or something, and then finalize your policy.
I mean, I'll give up if that's what you want to do, but
But-
I'm not happy with it.
All right, would anybody like to make an emotion to amend the bylaws?
We can't amend them, Frida, we don't have them.
Oh, but to amend the draft bylaws. To add this, I don't want you to give up, I want us to act on it or not. Because you have invested some time and energy in this. Can we do that? Can we vote as to whether to add this to the draft bylaws? There's 4 of us here.
To add it or table it?
To add this section, to amend the proposed bylaws with this section. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to do that?
I would make that motion to at least put it to a vote. And if there is not a majority in favor of it, or if we don't have a quorum to support it, then we could table it. And
We do have a
let
quorum.
a subcommittee.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay,
What
so
was the motion?
the motion is to take Pat's proposed addition, well, it would be a substitution to,
It'd be an addition.
It's in a,
no, because there's something in there already.
1, 2,
it will replace,
It'll replace Article 5, number 1.
well, it's 1,
yeah, Article 5, number 1.
I think you just used 1, 2, and 3 instead of A, B, and C. But it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
the numbers probably are a little mixed up. Jackie, can you fix that?
Yeah.
Okay, Jackie will
Okay.
fix that.
Yeah.
But, so we have a motion, we have a quorum, and we have a motion to replace this
New Article 5.
new Article 5,
Section 1.
Section 1. Do I have,
Mike made a motion to do that.
Mike made a motion?
And I made a motion to second it.
Okay, so
So now
let's
we-
vote. All in favor of amending, substituting Pat's new Section 1, Article 5, Section 1, say aye.
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 Okay.
Okay.
Any opposed? All right, so that's what we have done. Now, we have draft bylaws.
Yes.
Do we have any additional discussion about the draft bylaws?
I had none.
Okay, do I have a motion to vote on the draft bylaws?
Okay, I move that we approve the bylaws.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the draft bylaws. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we've got bylaws. All right, moving right along. Okay, then we have a conflict of interest policy. Okay, do we have any, are you happy with them, sir? Yeah, I'm ready to go. Okay. Do I have any discussion about the draft? I think we took out the offending section on and off duty that was in there last time that I didn't like. So do we have a motion to approve the draft conflict of interest policy?
I'll motion that we approve them.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of approving the draft conflict of interest policy? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we have a conflict of interest policy. Moving on to new business. So identifying issues and priorities for the EAC. I have one or two of my own, but does anybody who would like to identify some?
Well, I have a few. One is I would like the EAC to stay really involved with Erie Coke. There's a lot still to be done with that property. Finally, it is going to be owned by the Port Authority, and it will be kind of managed by the Erie County redevelopment. HECA, Hold Erie Coke Accountable, which I co-chair with Mike, has been working on this project for 4 or 5 years. I think what needs to happen now is, number one, we really need to have a community working group. And I've talked with, the committee has talked with DEP, the mayor, Erie County Redevelopment, the Port Authority, EPA about this. And verbally their support, but we can't get anything moving. Everybody's waiting for somebody else to make the move. The idea is that the mayor's office, Erie Redevelopment Authority, and HECA will work together to get a group of broad-based representatives that will meet regularly with the people that are doing, with DEP, with EPA, and be the conduit to keep the public engaged, because nobody's engaging the public right now. We have a couple of meetings. I have a list of people that I send stuff out to. And we really got the idea from Erie Coke at Tonawanda. They've had an Erie Community Working Group now for probably 2 or 3 years, and it's very successful. And we have a template, and HECA is going to start to be pushing hard for this. We've kind of let it ride and let it ride. But we really need to get people to the table. And I think it's important. Now, are we going to develop that property now? It's going to be no. It's going to be years. But we need to keep abreast of what's happening on the property. What are the results of the test? DEP did a year of testing, and the testing showed that they needed more information. But the thing that they put on their website to let the public know what's happening was useless to the public. And, they say they can't do it any differently, that, it's not built into their contract with the people. But there needs to be more. So that's one item that I'd like people to consider. Another, I think, is the whole microplastics pellets, single-use plastic. The microplastics and the pellets are one thing, but we're going to continue to have them in whatever forms if we don't eliminate single-use plastics. And cities can do that. Cities all over the country are doing that. And I'm so tired when I go into the restaurant without even asking, they give me my glass of water with a straw in it. If I have a glass of water, I don't need a straw.
I automatically say, water, no ice, no straws.
I know it, but if you go to the Marriott, they don't ask you. They bring their water and it has straws in it.
I just tell them.
And so, well, I tell
Yeah.
them, and I've asked to speak to their manager, and I say, you're sitting on a great lake, plastic is a major issue, get rid of the straws. But anyways, that's another issue. And probably the biggest one is the climate action plan. We need to have a climate action plan. And that's one thing we have to see about what's happening on the international level. I'm involved with a group called GLEN, Great Lakes Ecoregion Network. And years ago, we used to have a binational group that was called Great Lakes United. And 2 years ago, some of those same people were meeting because it was the 50th anniversary of the Great Lakes Water Quality Act, which is a agreement between Canada and the United States about taking care of the Great Lakes from toxics, and there's like 10 or 12 issues. And as we were getting ready for that event, we were the NGOs preparing for the celebration, because there was also a federal group, but we knew they weren't going to address issues that we wanted. We decided to form this group, and so I am part of the climate, we have issue teams, so I'm part of the climate action issue team. But, and I know the city is doing bits and pieces, but we need, and the last conference call I was on, they said states and municipalities, I have seen Pennsylvania's, we're supposed to have their climate action plan already, and I know that we don't have anything in the city. So those are my,
The state does have a climate action
The
plan
state
that
does
they've
have-
approved.
they have, the state does.
Ours is we're still working on developing ours.
So I think that needs to be something that we're looking at. So for right now, I'll stop with those.
And how about you?
I would concur with Sister Pat for sure. The only other thing, and it's related, is this stormwater.
Yeah, I thought about stormwater too.
Because, now there's a fee, and, citizens need to be aware of why that fee exists, and then how, as advisory board, we can give advice on, other alternatives to concrete and plastic responses to stormwater runoff. And
Yeah, there's definitely room to expand our public education about stormwater best management practices, for sure.
And the single-use plastic goes right down into the storm drains, and then ends up on the East Avenue boat launch, among other places.
You're right.
Cascade Creek, yeah.
And Groundwork Erie, our kids are, they spend time cleaning up neighborhoods, and most of it is single-use plastic. And so, like, to your point about straws, what is Dollar General selling? What are these convenience stores selling?
How many people are
To
using
kids.
stirring sticks in their restaurant?
Yeah, and that what we see on the street, and, sometimes the school district is giving out candy or food, and, kids are walking home, and it ends up right in the street and goes right down. So, I agree, single-use plastic, storm drains, and everything else, that HECA thing is very interesting to think about, how that public education comes about, and awareness, and keeping the public engaged, especially of those who live around that area.
How you doing with the minutes on this?
Oh.
Keeping track?
I've got lists, I've got the list.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, this is great, and things sort of fit together. So as far as single-use plastics, I'm totally with you. One of the things I bring up every once in a while, since 2017, the first time I saw one, is to have a water distribution system at events, so that people, and maybe even sell reusable bottles there, or distribute them or whatever, and then have a thing where it's hooked up to water supply and you get your water, and we don't have all this single-use bottles, and it could be owned by the Water Authority or the Downtown Partnership or Public Works.
What do
or
they attach into?
It's a water supply, I think it could, anything
is it
that's
portable,
potable
though?
water.
Erie Water, I know the new director of Erie Water Works, Craig Palmer, and he recently told me that they're looking into that sort of portable system.
For events, or?
Well, actually, to put in buildings, and like with Erie Water Works branding, like, refillable, but also maybe for events and in Perry Square, for example.
Well, that's what we need. I mean, it's, since COVID, what I've been able to find online has changed a little bit, but there are some water authorities that own them and rent them out. There are individuals that rent them out. We could have, somebody could sponsor a contest, that somebody could fabricate the darn thing rather than buying it, but.
How do they connect into existing water systems if there's no connection? Like, for
Well,
example,
don't we have a hydrant? We have a water fountain in the park,
in Perry Square.
yeah.
So they would hook into existing water fountains?
They must,
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
they have them, but I can't answer that
I
question.
mean, there's
directly.
one in
So if you
Australia, or
didn't have the water fountain, you couldn't,
you
there
could
wouldn't
just
be
hook it
anything
into
connected.
a hose, and, huh?
Like, before there wasn't a water fountain in Perry Square.
Right.
So there's nothing to hook to.
Right.
Because you can't hook to a hose, because that's not potable water necessarily.
Well,
Right.
I think, though, that the other folks that would be the event planning folks.
Would provide access somewhere?
But they might, get a grant to get something that would be at all their events, winter, spring, summer, fall.
So can you
I mean, it would be
get some
cool that-
clarification from the Water Authority on what they're doing?
Yeah,
Are you sure that these sort of pop-ups of water are not like, unlike the ones where you come out of the porta-john at a concert and you wash your hands?
Like, it
and
has a
there's
certain amount of water.
Yeah, there's like a barrel of
I think
water.
that might be-
I'm thinking it's more like that, not connecting.
Because if you
and
could
all of
connect, you'd already have the water fountain.
This is the one that was
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
one that was at the Newport Folk Festival, and it was,
connected to a water source?
yeah, and it was provided by Clean Canteen, and they provided them, and you just put your water under the spout, anybody.
And we don't have to have all the facts now, I think we
No.
just put it down as this is
It's a,
one of the things.
things
Yeah,
that
I
were,
was just curious,
right,
because it
but-
sounds cool, I never heard of it.
Yeah.
right,
Kathy Schaaf also mentioned it at the,
Council meeting.
Do you want
the
to-
department meeting
Oh,
on
department.
Tuesday, because, we're starting to ramp up for Celebrate Erie.
Oh, uh-huh.
And she did mention to have
You can
that
show it to
instead
Pat.
of plastic water
Uh-huh.
bottles.
We just got one, we redid our water fountain at
So
the
you
Art
have
House,
one.
and we now have a
Right.
place where you can fill your water
right,
bottle.
and that's the other thing, is that there should be, one of the things I think is that with containers and these kind of water delivery things, that there may be an economy of scale. Maybe there is a way for the city, this committee can help create some kind of buying collective, so it's economically more feasible for places to install those.
But, well, sometimes I think what's more helpful is to also see, like, where else are they being used? How much do they cost? I mean, Like even a straw ban, like what other municipalities, have any other municipalities banned straws in their cities, and where are they? And then, do you have the sample ordinances? I mean, gathering the information is the work that I think is what the EAC needs to
Yeah,
help
that's
do.
what, you know,
and then
Having a friend
present
with a
it.
disability who would not want to give up straws, I wouldn't promote a straw ban right now.
well,
But not a straw ban, but like to encourage, like
Right.
you don't give them out
Right.
unless someone asks
Right,
for
but
it,
the-
or
right.
if you do have straws, can they be paper straws or compostable plastic straws? Or, I
Right.
mean, there's like
Right.
other,
The other thing is restaurant type and packaging, and also like the food co-op, I see it there, but all of these clamshells and the styrofoam containers, you
well,
know.
lots of them are moving to cardboard, but I think we're off track right now.
Okay.
We don't need to be discussing
Right,
that.
okay.
That's what eventually our committees will be like. If we say single-use plastic is something we want to investigate, then there's going to be a committee that's going to do exactly
Okay,
what Sarah's
so let me get through the
saying.
rest of my list then.
Yeah, and we have to get Michael's list too.
Right. And then,
and I have a list.
of course, I'm
Sarah's
interested,
list, yeah.
and I'm interested in things that we promote more native vegetation in absolutely whenever it's possible. And encouraging people to, just want to see if somebody's trying to tell me something. Oh, somebody's texted me of his version of a thing, anyway, but, of the water thing. And, but to promote more native vegetation, to, you know, we already have it finally in our definition, but just to do more education, to try and move the paradigm forward a little bit on that.
Native plants, native,
Biodiversity, native plant
Yeah.
landscaping, yeah.
Plants and trees,
I mean,
flowers, bushes.
native, I thought, could also be indigenous, but we
And-
don't know much about the tribes that.
Well, I use the term native because
I hear you.
that's what I
Okay,
use,
I
and
don't
those
wanna-
are the organizations I belong to. But also, the other thing is just the whole, and of course, climate action plan, but also the funding awareness is what, I know we had the guy the first meeting talk about funding a little bit, but just that there's all kinds of money out there, different kinds of funding sources, and we need to help make sure that we're not missing opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mike.
I have one thing to add. I love all of these ideas. The one thing that is on my mind, because I just spent several days in the city of Galway in Ireland. And Galway is a city about the same size as Erie. And they have about a 5 to 6 block area in the downtown that is completely automobile forbidden. And the way those shops and pubs and you know, gift shops thrive, and the huge numbers of people that walk up and down in this pedestrian-centered thing that used to be a street just blew me away. And I could picture something like that in the city of Erie. So what I'm proposing is at least think about, you know, what would it take to create a zone within the city that would be pedestrian, bicyclist only.
So I came here after what's it called, the pedestrian mall or downtown mall?
You know, we had this once, sort of.
So, but people just kind of twitch when it comes up, so what was,
Yeah, I'll put it out.
no, I'm not saying it's
No,
a
no,
bad
it's-
idea,
it's
I'm
a
just
great,
wondering,
great
what
idea.
was
It is a
that?
great idea. but-
Yeah.
We'll keep it on the list, Mike.
Yes, no, please keep it on the list. I'm just curious what was wrong with the pedestrian mall,
You know, people they want their car right there.
I know
They
that
wanna use
was,
their muscles.
that was the interesting thing, the Erie Downtown Development Corporation paid for a consultant study, and they recommended not to have so much parking, and the EDDC ignored their own consultant. Anyway,
Well, I think that with the Greenway Trail, that the city is doing and that Groundwork Erie is a part of,
On the east
you know,
side.
the trail, you know, Groundwork Erie, as it moves into its second, third, fourth, fifth year, is going to try to connect more of these trails. And so to connect to a pedestrian zone would be like really, really cool. So I think it's a great
Right.
idea.
And of course, the other thing I'm interested in is more sidewalk, better, I understand there's some evolution going on in code enforcement, but there's two versions of code enforcement. There's the one in Public Works and the one in,
There's no code enforcement in Public Works.
well, there's supposed to be,
It was moved to planning.
but.
But now I believe it reports directly, the Office of Code reports directly to
So
the
if I
mayor.
report, because usually I would go through Leanne and it would be, Bill Hayden would deal with it, but.
Bill Hayden is an engineer, and that's an engineering issue. You're not
Maybe-
talking code enforcement.
Maybe you mean quality of life tickets that Public Works they can submit quality.
But they never do.
No.
Bill Hayden is the new traffic engineer.
Right.
He's
Okay.
not in code enforcement, he's engineering.
Right, but
So
he's
that
the
is
one,
Public
he's the
Works.
one that right-of-way complaints go to. which
It
is-
depends on what the complaint is. They're assigned to whoever's in charge of that issue.
Right.
If it's a tree complaint, it goes to me.
Right, most
like-
of my sidewalk closure complaints.
Sidewalks is under engineering.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not under code.
Anyway, it's my whole thing around pedestrian accessibility, and that's one of my issues. And then it is an environmental issue, because if we can't walk, we will drive. And then the other would be, I guess, better transit availability, which we are affiliated with the EMTA, so.
Okay, shall we move on to Sarah's list?
Yes, let's list Sarah's list and then climate action plan.
Well, my list is very similar, because obviously the climate action plan is at the top of that. The city needs to finish developing that. And then as part of that is also involves climate resiliency, becoming more resilient to climate change and like extreme weather preparedness and things like that. The city is also in favor of more walkable neighborhoods. I don't know, this isn't currently something the city's looking into, but it comes up a lot, is public e-charging stations in the city.
I'm sorry, what?
Public e-charging stations for
Oh, yeah.
electric vehicles, there's not like public ones. The city's obviously trying to promote solar energy, using solar energy. And we also are concerned about the litter. As your group is there, you mentioned, there's a lot of that everywhere. Some other things that we've heard, especially working with Lake Plua, the Pennsylvania Lake Erie Watershed Association, the Lake Erie Region Conservancy, and our Coastal Zone Management Program, is a riparian buffer ordinance. We don't have any protection, like
What
a stronger
ordinance?
riparian buffer
what?
ordinance
Aha, yes.
to protect riparian buffers, or, and that's part of a stormwater issue. And so I agree that we need to develop some more public education on stormwater best management practices and promote the conversion of riparian areas and wetland areas into green space if they're not already, or, stuff like that.
Can I just, do you mind if I interrupt you there, or do you want to continue?
No, you can say something.
Riparian buffers.
Sure?
I was thinking about also farmland. I mean, I know that it's outside the city limits, but everything drains into the bay, into the lake. So in terms of having buffers to where farmers till and that, we can't control that, they're protected under the.
Yeah, the conservation district does help
But
that,
you can
promote
have
that.
education in collaboration with the farmers, because they do directly affect the lake.
Yeah, the Erie County Conservation District deals mostly with the farmers, because most of them are in the rural areas, not within the city. But yeah, there's lots of information about, riparian buffers can be anywhere, whether it's in a city or on a farm or a park
Farmers are
or,
protected under federal laws, but it could be also a priority of the EAC to at least that
Sure.
priority. Only because there's so many phosphates going into our lake.
Exactly.
And we have that, are you still working on your list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My list is long. We also have, we're working to try to encourage recycling of glass, but that still isn't a perfect system. And, Sam Mason has brought up pilot projects for food composting, and we haven't been able to expand that much just yet. So that's something to still look into. One of the things that I deal with all the time is right now with the trees, like we don't have any jurisdiction over dead trees on private property. So like code enforcement doesn't enforce that, and I don't have jurisdiction to go on private property.
When you say that, enforce what?
Of requesting a private property owner cut down their dead tree because it's dangerous and could fall. There's, nothing, that's not covered anywhere. It's like a loophole in our system.
Say I
right
want
now.
to leave a stump, a tall stump.
You could leave a tall stump and then it would be safe. The danger is that the tree,
Right.
the neighbor could have a dead tree right next to your house that can fall on your house, but nobody can force them to cut it down.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to die. It hasn't died.
And so then, like at our last Plua meeting, when we mentioned that, John Vanko then brought up about how he wants stronger planting ordinances of when trees have to be replaced if trees are removed. So that's something from the community I hear all the time. And then,
You mean on private property or?
anywhere. I'm not sure if we can enforce it on private property. That is what John mentioned, but even in the right-of-ways, like it's on the city ordinance books right now that if you remove a city tree, you have to replant 2, but currently that's not really enforced. Like I tell them that, but I don't go out and fine anybody if they don't do that. Like there's no enforcement. So my thing is, if you can't enforce an ordinance, it shouldn't be part of the ordinance. We should only have ordinances that we're actually enforcing. So do we want to take that off, or do we want to somehow create a way to make that a stronger enforcement? I mean, it's just an issue that comes up a lot. I'm not saying we're going to solve all these things or we want to tackle them, but we're just listing.
I think it would be
Issues.
interesting to know in general. I grew up calling them a parking strip. People around here maybe call them a tree lawn.
Or the right-of-way.
Right away. Whatever that grassy thing is in front of your house between the sidewalk and the street, if you have a sidewalk. I would like to know what one can and can't do, because I don't, but if I planted the whole thing to native plants, how would my neighbors get out of their cars when their families park
The
in front of my
ordinance
house?
currently says they just have to be lower than, I think it's 24 inches for visibility. They would have to be low-growing native plants,
Right.
nothing higher, until so many feet back. We've had this discussion. I don't remember how many feet back it has to be, but that's why you had to cut back some of your plants. They were too close.
Well, that was on
towards
the other side of the sidewalk.
But it's the whole space.
Right.
It doesn't matter which side of the sidewalk. It's the same, it's
Okay.
however many feet back
But
it was.
I know that some people are growing vegetables and,
It's supposed to either be below the 24 inches, I believe it's 24 inches, it could be, I don't know the exact number, so I could be wrong, or it has to be see-through. So if you had one tall sunflower and then like 6 inches and another tall sunflower, like the concern is that if a child's running out into the street to chase a ball, you want to be able to see them coming. You don't want this solid wall of vegetation and then all of a sudden a kid runs out from the middle of it or behind it. So it's more of a safety issue for the
rather than
pedestrians interacting with the
my neighbors
vehicles.
getting out of their cars.
But the neighbor also has to be able to see to back out of their driveway. That's also, you don't want them backing into oncoming traffic. They need to be able to see. So it's all about sight visibility for the vehicles to see humans or other vehicles.
But it's not about somebody parked in front
Or
of your house who
squirrels.
wants to get out of the car, and there's all this crap they have to step over.
No, I mean, in an ideal world, you would still consider that. If I pull up to somebody's house and they want a tree and there's a clear footpath through the grass right where they want to plant the tree, I'll say, well, obviously somebody's walking here a lot. Maybe this isn't a good spot to put a tree, because if the grass won't grow, a tree isn't going to grow. So, I mean, those are things you have to look at and
It's
consider.
educational stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but you could put a walkway through there and still have low-growing plants on either side that are native.
How much trouble, as you know, I've worked in solid waste management for 7 years, so I know a lot about contaminated recycling and what doesn't work. So how much issue do we have in Erie with people contaminating their recycling?
A lot. It's a lot, it's a big, education issue because we did an audit, I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, and Sam Mason was involved with that also, and we pulled garbage bags, and then we went through them, recyclable, bags of recycling, and then we would dump them out to see were they really recyclable or not. And, I think only 35% of them were 100% recyclable. And if one piece of garbage is in there that's not recyclable, they throw the whole bag in the truck, in the garbage, I mean. So it was really depressing. I had really high hopes that it was gonna be the opposite. Like, I thought we'd do really good. But the problem is people are putting grocery store bags in there, which are recyclable at the grocery store, but they're not recyclable in a curbside collection program. And pizza boxes,
And what kind of
because they're
paper?
cardboard, but they're contaminated with grease and food, so they're not recyclable. And so a lot of, or like you said, the clamshell containers, they think, oh, it's plastic, it's recyclable. And then what happened is a couple of years ago, they decided the easiest way to determine it is whether or not it has a screw top lid. They only want to recycle number 1 plastic and number 2. And so almost all 1s and 2s have a screw top lid. So it's bottle, jugs, and jars, like your water bottle, your laundry detergent jug, your peanut butter jar. But now things have 1s and 2s on them that aren't a screw top lid.
I just got in that discussion.
But is with waste management or whoever's collecting the garbage looks at it and sees, they just see it's not a screw top lid. They're not, you can't read the number off every single item inside a recycling bag, so they're still gonna be throwing it in the garbage. And so it's a super difficult topic.
And the
because-
paper, what's acceptable paper to recycle has changed too.
Correct. But it depends on the municipality.
The big thing for households is our recycling guidelines are way too strict for people to be able to
But if,
follow.
But it's based on what will be,
I know.
otherwise it all goes in the garbage though, is the problem.
recycling is only a public good if there's a market for it.
I mean, I live with 4 people, and I'm constantly telling them what they can recycle and what they can't.
Me too.
The
I live
problem
with one
is we're
person.
dictated by what waste
Yeah, I know,
management
it's-
is willing to take.
I know.
So, and they have the monopoly, so they control
Okay.
all the cards.
So-
If they say they won't take it, no matter how much we want it recycled, they'll charge us $1,000, like, you know what I mean? They'll just make it financially unaffordable for us to recycle.
So the point is
So
just that
this-
we need to continue to have education about this.
Right, but we also need to, perhaps the EAC though could reach out to waste management and try to work with them or the other garbage haulers like, is it Pro Waste now and it used to be Poles or yeah. And talk to them like, are there ways we can recycle more items without it being so confusing? Like how can we make it less confusing but be able to recycle more items? Like what needs to help? Because sometimes I've heard that we need to have the contracts longer, because right now I think the recycling contracts are only 2 years, and so that's not enough time for them to invest in the industry on updating their equipment to be able to sort better, and then lose the contract and it goes to the other guy. So like, maybe there's subtle things that from the city side we don't know that we
So how do
could
we
be
get
trying
there?
to work on, or, you know what I mean?
So who do we want to have come to us in a future meeting and talk to us about this stuff?
We decide whether it's a priority.
Okay.
Then we
All
set
right.
up a task force, and then the task force meets with
Okey-doke.
waste management.
It seems like it's related to single-use plastic.
Yeah, it's all, all of those things are connected.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And and you're not, and I'm just telling you, these are issues that repeatedly come up and things that we're focused on and.
so we have had a chance to voice where we're coming from. So how we go about,
I don't think we can prioritize today.
No, absolutely not.
I think we need to wait till the next meeting to see if we have other members here that want to add to the list.
right.
And
And in our minutes, and we can also encourage people, how do we feel about communicating by email, the way we were doing with the bylaws? It's a little,
I think people can send in their ideas and this list could be expanded so that when we come to the next meeting, we have the list. But I don't think we want to carry on a discussion.
No,
by
we
email.
shouldn't
I
be
know I
doing
don't.
business by email, but we can communicate. Okay,
Do you have anything else on your list, Sarah?
I think between what everybody talked about, and I think it's all covered. Thank you.
all right. So was there anything else that you were going to say about climate action plan stuff, or where we need to be moving along to move
Well,
this?
the piece that we're stuck on is reaching out to the people who actually live in the communities and talking to them directly. So we've talked with the groups that represent the people, some, but we're still in that phase of trying to gather information from the actual people.
When you say groups, like, you mean like Erie Grassroots Coalition?
Yeah, like the groundwork, Erie, and like the Sisters of St. Joseph Network and the Neighborhood Art House, and like groups that are already working in the communities.
And what do you want to get from the people?
We want to know more of what part of the climate is affecting them, but there's a missing education piece because they might not realize that it's a climate-related issue, what they're
Exactly.
dealing with. And so that's why it's not just like filling out a survey, does this affect you, does that affect you? It's more like we have to figure out a way to break it down into every day, like an average day person's day of what is affecting them and how does that relate to if it's related to climate issues or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then prioritize. And we want the community's input to prioritize, because the city could come up with its own priorities, but we want to make sure the actual citizens participate in that, and what is the most important to them? Like, is it air quality because everybody's getting asthma or having trouble breathing, or or is it solar energy because they want cheaper electric bills? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because everything's a great idea, so how do we prioritize what is the most needed? Because we want to help the people we want to help the people the most. Like, how can we get the most bang for our buck as quickly as possible, make good impacts?
Right.
Yeah, I think there's existing data in all the neighborhood groups, most of them. And then there's new neighborhood groups that have been brought together by Erie Neighborhood Growth Partnership. And they're having new meetings now with some other neighborhood. So, I mean, I think the structure is in place socially to develop the needs and the knowledge.
And then the real reason it's stalled, I mean, to be honest, is I'm only the sustainability coordinator part-time, and I'm the arborist part-time. And as the sustainability coordinator, I'm working on 30 different projects at a time, and this is only one of them. And so me, by myself, I'm not able to develop this plan any faster. And so we're trying, we've partnered with the Jenny Tompkins at Penn Future. I've partnered with Crane. Right now we have a grant, a P4P grant that has like 4 or 5 different partners in there. So I'm trying to expand
That's that little $10,000
working with our partners
project?
to try to move this along faster, because we don't have any additional staff at the city to work on this. And so we're needing, and we have a planning department now, obviously, they help with the plan too. But I'm just saying it's just taking a long time because there's only one, for a long time there was only one person, and now we finally have some groups and some networks and partnerships established, and the grant and a new planning department, and so we're finally starting to move it along, but it's still just,
So would you say, to add to the list, a goal would be by August to have people in place getting this data and then starting to, because part of Groundwork Erie is to go to these different neighborhoods, have kids working in them, and take stock of the built environment and what we were calling climate safety, developing climate safety. And so, I think you're right. There's a lot of moving parts now that are in place and can really give you and partner with you to develop a plan.
So Erie Refocus drew these huge lines of neighborhoods. And my neighborhood, I created a next-door neighborhood that's much more contained.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually on some map that the city has on their GIS sometimes. And, but anyway, I mean, we are a natural neighborhood because we're bounded by West 26th Street, Green Garden, the freeway, and West 21st, which is kind of where the industrial neighborhood starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we would like, it would be appropriate for us to get interacted with and
Right.
but like I said, Erie Refocus drew these huge, and, you know, ever since that was drawn, I said, this is too big. We have nothing to do with the people south of us. But I'm just saying, you know.
Right.
And the other concern I have is I don't want to make a plan just to check off the box and say we have a plan.
Exactly.
Like we could, like, there's lots of municipalities that already have plans and some of them are really good, but I don't want to just change all the names to the city of Erie and then call that our plan. I want it to really be a plan for us.
Right.
So, yes, Jackie.
So just to bring us back to the LCAP for just a moment.
Yeah, you're in those meetings.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
So, and, you know, I kind of inherited a lot of this, and I had to learn the history about all of it, including the P4P, which is the Partners for Places grant that we have, which is $10,000, just a small amount of money.
Right.
But how I understand it is that in order to move forward in best practice, in the right way, and to, yes, have an LCAP as the final product, we must engage those areas, those environmental justice areas. And that component was not complete. In the process with Sarah Tompkins and Jenny Tompkins and Sarah
Stallman.
So that was a missing component. And so what we've done is we have this accelerated schedule that Porter Stevens talked to you about at the first meeting. This schedule where it's, you know, it's only like 4 or 5 months that will be engaging those communities, gaining feedback, using the ENGP and all of the neighborhood groups that we have in place. It's kind of like train the trainer, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Having the education component as well as the feedback component. And then from there, that output or that deliverable, or whatever that report will look like, will then be the impetus, or it will give us the ability to then go out for the bigger implementation money to do the LCAP.
So what's the time frame on that?
The time frame is accelerated. We've had this grant for a few years, and I have a few schedules that run in my head all the time, but I believe that this is June.
It's very,
June
very
or July, I can't exactly, but it
We'll
might
have
even be
deliverables?
Well, it will be a report. It
Right.
would be a report, and then that would allow us, even to go, I think it's P4P also, they have an implementation grant that we would be then eligible for
Right.
to go out for the implementation money to create the LCAP. So
Yeah, but we have to do this
we have
first,
to, yeah.
before we can go on to the next step.
Well, and it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't required of us, but it was recommended from all of the players that have been doing this for a long time, including you, Sarah, right, that we have to engage this community. We can't just create a plan and check off the boxes, that it's must, it's best practice, it's our due diligence, it's our responsibility, right, to engage those that have been overlooked and undermined for all these years. So the LCAP is a priority of the city, and I hear it from you as a priority from the EAC, and we are very much, that steering committee is going to rely on the EAC as part of their framework for not only this $10,000 grant, but also moving forward.
LCAP.
Local Community Action Plan.
Local
Climate.
climate.
Sorry. sorry, like local climate action plan.
I should have figured that
No,
out
but
myself.
you know what, that's the first, one of the first times I've heard.
And it
that.
was actually the DEP that helped us spearhead it all, because the DEP has a program where they also encourage communities to form local climate action plans. And so we partnered with Penn State University students at main campus to do a greenhouse gas inventory as a baseline starting point. But that's not the only thing to consider to make a plan. And so that's why it was only like the very beginning, the half of phase one.
And there
Right.
was a small engagement piece as part of that, but it wasn't robust enough to capture the populations that we should be capturing. So,
Right.
I'm going to just mention, this was the event that I don't know why, I feel it's almost easier for me to call her Dr. Mason, but Sam Mason sent why she's not here. There's a worldwide climate and justice dialogue that's happening tonight at Barron from 5:30 to 8:30, and I sent, everybody got an email about it in case anybody wants to go. I wouldn't mind, can we start to tie this meeting up, because I have 15 minutes left to pay my taxes? No, I mean, I think we're kind of about done, are we? Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I really
for
appreciate
priorities?
the understanding between Sarah and Jackie.
Right, did you
That-
have any of your
no,
personal?
just that steering committee meeting we have is tomorrow. We have our first steering committee.
What,
meeting,
of what?
for the P4P, for the grant, for the
Okay,
grant.
is that an internal steering committee?
Well, it is internal, but it's some of the players that have been involved in, like Sarah Stallman, Jenny Tompkins. But then we will have an advisory committee as well that you'll be part of. You'll have a say and you'll be able to.
And forming an
Share.
ENC was part of what the local climate action plan needed too. I mean, all of these things,
Right.
all these wheels were happening all at the same time. The EAC just was formed before we were able to
Okay.
finish the local climate action plan. And so we're hoping the EAC will help us now
Yes.
that you're here, because
Okay.
it's a bigger project.
So what are we going to be doing in April? We're going to be continuing with our prioritization process?
Yeah, I think that's good.
And then, if there's any new developments about all this stuff we're talking about, that it could be shared, maybe you will have something from the Water Authority you can share with us?
I can give an update on the P4P. I have to do that, sure.
Okay. Is there anything else? I mean,
Well, I think I noticed part C here under new business is that meeting at the County Conservation District Office. And-
that was just a piece of information I wanted to
And
share.
that looks good, because I think that may feed into some of these priorities that we've already listed. So I know I'm going to try to go to that.
Good.
I have to look at my
There
schedule.
were two positions on the Conservation District that were tabled at last night's county council meeting. So there are two vacancies on the Conservation District Board, one of which is a kind of a citizen. They are appointments made by the county executive as opposed to a district appointment. But that's just a piece of information I'm sharing. I did once try to get on that board, but I haven't in a while.
Are you interested in having anybody come, like Sarah, somebody like Sarah again, to just sort of give an update? And if you are, in the next couple of weeks, I can reach out and ask that person.
Waste management?
No, I don't think we want to get, I think it's too soon for waste management. I
Yeah.
think if we're just deciding on priorities, we don't even know if that's going to be a
An
priority.
issue you want to tackle right
You
now.
know, because we're only going to be able to, I mean, we have, I don't know how many lines I have on this pad, but I have something on every one of them. So we have
Right.
about 30 issues listed. And
Right.
we're going to have to,
Right,
You
and
know-
we should have we called it Mortonizing in the Forest Service because Steve Morton invented it, but we should have a, prioritization, whatever it is,
Dot
process in the next meeting,
I
yeah.
think if we talk about them, we
Right.
can. start. But I think that'll probably be the basis, plus these things of the next meeting.
Is there anything else?
But I think it would be good, Sarah, if you could come back
Sure.
to the next meeting. because you're dealing with lots of this stuff. And you are working with Crane on this too, right? And they did something with the neighborhoods. So, and what, Crane's work didn't meet your requirement for
No.
environmental justice, because they did some stuff in the, I thought they did some stuff in our neighborhood, and I thought they worked with,
I can't.
We just had that one meeting that you attended
oh, I
at
thought they
Crane.
did, okay.
That's really all they didn't get much
We-
farther than that.
Crane has been very much involved in our early on discussions, and they said that, you know, it was just initial conversations, nothing really.
Yeah, and they also worked with some municipalities to do some extreme weather hazardous planning and preparedness, but that's on the municipal level,
Adjournment?
not on the
Do we have
citizen
anything
level.
else? Thank you, Michael, so much for making such an effort to be with us today, and enjoy the rest of your trip.
Well, it was made easy by the city, Catherine Blair, who set up the Zoom call, so that made it easy. I
Thank you.
appreciate that, and I look
You need a
forward to
motion to adjourn.
speaking to you all in a month.
Okay.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, and all in favor?
Second
Aye.
read first, then all.
A
in
second?
favor?
You seconded it?
I second it.
Okay,
All approved.
okay, I need to go pay my taxes.
Bye, Mike, have fun.